Welcome, everyone, to this explainer. Today, we're diving into something absolutely huge. We're breaking down a major new coalition letter from some of the biggest tech giants and innovators who are literally shaping the future of artificial intelligence. It's called Open Weights, an American AI leadership, and let me tell you, it is a powerful document. If you've been wondering where the AI industry is heading, and especially if you want to understand the massive behind-the-scenes debate about who actually controls this technology, you are in exactly the right place. We're going to unpack their arguments step by step, straight from the source material.
And just to show you how incredibly high the stakes are here, look no further than NVIDIA's CEO, Jensen Huang. He actually used his very first post ever on this platform to share this exact coalition document. I mean, think about that. When the leader of the company building the hardware that literally powers the AI revolution uses his platform debut to champion open models, you know for sure it's a conversation we all need to be paying attention to. He makes the point that the world actually needs both closed and open models to keep accelerating innovation.
And this movement is building fast. We're seeing industry heavyweights like Aravind Srinivasan, the CEO of Perplexity, rallying behind the message too. He's out there emphasizing a core argument from the letter: the idea that competition is what keeps the benefits of AI broadly shared, rather than just getting concentrated in the hands of a select few. It's a really powerful statement about democratizing this technology for everyone. So, here's our roadmap for today. We're going to start with the open source legacy, then move into defining open weights. After that, we'll cover economics, competition, and control, tackle the safety debate, and finally wrap up with policy and the future. All right, Section 1. The open source legacy. To really understand where AI is going, the authors of this letter say we actually need to look backward first. They draw this brilliant historical analogy between the software revolution and the AI revolution. Back in the 1980s, early open source pioneers faced a ton of skepticism. The prevailing belief at the time was that software would only advance if companies kept tight, closed control over their code. But the open source movement pushed hard for transparency, letting developers all over the world study and modify the code. And look where we are today. That open source software safely runs most of the internet, the US military, and massive global scientific research. The authors are arguing we face the exact same choice today in the 2020s with open weight AI. They believe an open ecosystem is going to create a shared foundation of knowledge for generations to come.
Moving right along to Section 2, defining open weights.
Okay, before we get into the economics and the heavy safety debates, we need to clearly define the core technology at the center of this massive industry push. What exactly are open weights? Well, the letter explicitly defines them as AI models that anyone can download, inspect, modify, and run on their own infrastructure. So we aren't just talking about accessing an AI through a web browser or some lockdown API. It means you have the freedom to take the actual engine of the AI, pop the hood, tweak it, and run it locally on your own servers. This is precisely what makes advanced AI accessible, adaptable, and widely available to everyone, not just massive tech corporations.
Which brings us to Section 3, economics, competition, and control.
So what is the real-world business impact of all this? The letter introduces this fantastic concept of economic discipline. On one side, you've got frontier-scale models. These are the massive, highly expensive models built entirely from scratch. And hey, they're necessary, but they should really be reserved for genuine frontier problems. On the other side, you have open weights. Because they're incredibly cost-efficient, businesses don't have to pay premium prices for every single minor task. Startups, hospitals, farms, classrooms, they can match the exact right model to the right job. The coalition argues that this discipline is exactly what will make AI economically sustainable as it scales into billions of everyday tasks.
And you know, this economic vision is uniting some incredibly diverse players across the tech landscape. You've got legacy tech titans like IBM, a company that's been around for over a century, standing shoulder to shoulder with cutting-edge, newly minted startups like Mistral AI. They're totally united by this shared belief that open weights expand access to the whole AI economy.
It's also bridging this massive gap between hardware and investment. We have chip manufacturing leaders like NVIDIA signing the exact same document as huge venture capital firms like Andreessen Horowitz. They all recognize that open weights create rivalry across the entire tech stack, from cloud chips all the way to end-user applications. And that rivalry, that intense competition, drives down costs and absolutely spurs innovation.
But here's a really critical piece for businesses: customer control. Think about it. If your organization is investing heavily in AI, you absolutely do not want to be held hostage by a single provider. Open weights guarantee that you can evaluate and adapt models locally. You retain strict privacy over your own data, And you can deploy the AI wherever your business actually needs it. But most importantly, as you create value and knowledge with AI, open weights allow you to actually own that accumulated value through self-improving models, rather than just endlessly renting it from someone else.
Now let's dive into Section 4, the safety debate.
This is, without a doubt, the most hotly contested part of the entire AI conversation today, and the coalition tackles it head-on. The big question on everyone's mind: do open weights carry real risks? The letter offers a surprisingly candid admission here. Yes, they absolutely do carry real and distinct risks. The authors fully acknowledge that once an open weight model is released into the wild, it is completely beyond the original developer's control. If a bad actor takes it and modifies it, those modified versions are super difficult to trace or reverse. They are not hiding from this fact at all.
However, their counterargument is fascinating. They argue that restricting open weights is exactly the wrong response to those risks. Look, in a world where cyber attackers are already using advanced AI, the good guys, the defenders, need access to models with comparable capabilities. They actually need open weights to detect, simulate, and respond to emerging threats. By leaning into broad community testing, vulnerabilities can be discovered and patched by thousands of different teams, which effectively eliminates the massive danger of having a single point of failure.
And that leads to this profound quote that perfectly sums up the letter's core argument. Transparency can be more secure than obscurity. The authors firmly believe that relying solely on closed models is just not inherently safe. Closed models can be breached or fail in ways that outsiders can't even see. Concentrating advanced AI behind just a few closed doors creates massive, highly dangerous single points of failure. True AI safety, they argue, depends on giving way more people the ability to read, team, test, and strengthen the very models that our whole society is starting to rely on.
Finally, let's look at Section 5, Policy and the Future.
The letter doesn't just sit back and lay out arguments. It directs some very specific calls to action toward policymakers. First, they want to significantly expand access to computing power for startups and researchers. Second, they're advocating for heavy investment in shared training assets, things like data sets and evaluation frameworks. But most crucially, they are urging policymakers to avoid premature restrictions on open models. They argue that regulating too early or too broadly will just stifle American innovation and drive all of this incredible technological development overseas. What they want is to foster a plural frontier, a space where a whole bunch of different models and approaches can thrive simultaneously.
The letter also issues a really specific technical warning regarding a process called distillation. Now, distillation is a widely used, very traditional practice where you use one model's outputs to help train or improve another model. The coalition is basically warning policymakers, hey, do not confuse this legitimate, traditional technique with the unlawful misappropriation of closed models. They point out that learning from and improving upon existing tech has driven innovation for decades. Sweeping restrictions on these normal techniques would be a massive mistake.
So, if we step back and summarize the core thesis of this entire document, it comes down to this. The future of American AI leadership relies on a strong, open ecosystem that diffuses into every sector. True leadership and long-term prosperity, that's not going to come from just one single massive frontier model locked away in some corporate vault. It comes from AI actively bleeding into the workflows of factories, hospitals, classrooms, and Main Street businesses all across the country.
Which leaves us with a critical and honestly pretty provocative question to end on. Are policymakers going to embrace open-weight AI to keep driving this innovation? Or is fear going to lead us into a closed, highly concentrated future where just a handful of companies hold all the keys to the AI era? The balance between smart regulation and open innovation is incredibly delicate, and the choices we make today are literally going to shape our digital foundation for decades to come. Thank you so much for joining me to explore this fascinating document. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next explainer.